In this video, we're going to take a deeper look at some of the conditional formatting features available in Excel. We have the same workbook that we used in our last conditional formatting video, and what we'll do is start by putting in one of the conditional format auto features called data bars. We did this briefly last time, but if we select that whole data, we choose data bars, and this time let's choose gradient fill. Let's dig in a little bit on the settings available for these data bars. If we go here to Manage Rules, we can click on this and choose Edit Rule. And you'll see here that we have an entire dialog box with additional features available to us. For example, we have the option to show only the data bar. If we click OK and click Apply, you'll see the values of those cells, while they're still there and you can see them in the formula bar and they will be used in a formula, are not visible to us. Only the relative size of the data point compared to one another is visible. If we go back into the edit rules here, we can choose a number of different options. We can force it to recognize a minimum automatically and a maximum automatically based on the data available in our range, or we can choose to force it to a specific number. So for example, if our minimum will always be 0, our maximum number will always be 100. When we click OK and click Apply, you'll notice that it's shrunk the size of these bars quite a bit because in our data set we didn't have anything close to 100. Therefore, if 0 to 100 were the true scale of our data, regardless of the sample that we have here on this sheet, this might help us understand better if there's really a lot of variability or if it just looks like a lot of variability because of the data that we have. If we go back to edit the rule again, we'll choose to not show the bar only this time. And this time we can choose to look at the bar appearance. In this case, we could change it to be a solid fill instead of a gradient. We could change the direction that things are going. We could also choose what happens if there's a negative value. There are a lot of different things that we can do to customize this visualization. As an example here, if we wanted to choose a percentile, we could choose something in the 10th percentile here, and over here we could choose something in the 90th percentile as our maximum. When we choose OK and click Apply, you'll see that it's changed again to where our minimum values don't even show anything because they haven't quite hit that 10th percentile. One final edit that we can make if we choose to edit this rule, we can change the border. So if we don't want a border, we want it to just fade into the cell, we can click Apply, and we can click OK, and you'll see that now the data bars fade into the cells. Depending on what you're trying to communicate with this visualization, it may or may not be needed to have the numbers listed out in the cell. Let's practice a couple more things with data bars. If we right click on this lead time format, we choose Copy, and then over here we choose Paste, and we'll do Paste Special, and we'll choose to paste values and number formats. We'll click OK, and we'll use our trick F4 to do the same thing one more time. So now I have the same data set copied over here in 2 additional columns. I want to show some comparisons. If we select this whole column here, we choose to add data bars to it, and let's just do our regular solid fill. In the next column we'll do the same thing, choose conditional formatting, data bars, and this time we'll choose a red color. And let's go in and edit the settings here on these red bars. We'll go to conditional formatting, choose Manage Rules, click on this one and choose Edit Rule. And here, instead of choosing an automatic value, we'll choose the number 0. And here for the maximum value, we'll choose the number 100. We'll click OK and Apply. Now in this case, you'll see that those green bars reach all the way to the ends because 16 is the highest number. But here 100 is supposed to be the highest number. So if I change this to be 95, you'll see that bar goes all the way across to the other side. So the scaling of these data bars is important to pay attention to as you go through and use them. If you're going to put one of these types of things on a data set that you're using, you should let the user know how it's scaled. And so for example, at the top here, you might say something like min of 0, max of 100, or some way to note that so that they know here's what we're showing in this particular data set. A final example for data bars. Let's say that you had some sort of score and we could start it off with 50%. If you use this data bar conditional formatting and choose a fill color for it, originally it will fill the entire width of that column. But if we go to Manage Rules, we choose Edit Rule, and instead here we choose a percent, where it goes from 0% to 100%. When we click OK, we click Apply, 50% goes halfway through. If I change this to some other percentage, it could be a very quick way to visualize the magnitude of that percentage. As an example here, if we go to Manage Rules, we choose Edit Rule here, and here it has a percent of 0 as the minimum, percent of 100 as a maximum. If we choose to show the bar only, we can pretty quickly see at 50%, it's halfway through. Let's take a look at another great conditional formatting feature which is used extensively in the business world. And that's sometimes called a heat map. But in conditional formatting, if we select all of these price things here, we'll choose the menu and we'll choose color scales. And the reason it's sometimes called a heat map is because it shows things from hot as red to cold as green, or you can pick whatever those colors are, blue and red. Here, let's choose green, yellow, red color scale. And what that does is it creates the highest numbers as green and the lowest numbers as red. Now for price, we may want to view that the other way around. So if we go to conditional formatting and choose Manage Rules, here we can choose to edit that rule. And now instead of the lowest value being red, we could actually change that color to a green, let's just say, and we'll make the highest value into a red. And when we click OK and we click Apply, see it switches that to the other way around. We could have done that same thing under this conditional formatting menu if instead of choosing this first option of green, yellow, red, we chose the second option of red, yellow, green. There are a lot of different ways to use these features, but this helps us to very quickly, if I zoom out, visualize here's where my highest and lowest prices might be. I could do the same thing with my order quantities here if I wanted to. Selecting that, choose conditional formatting, and in this case, I don't necessarily care to switch between red and green. I'll just show one single color with the darker versions of that color being the places that I've ordered the most quantity. And if I go to conditional formatting here, choose Manage Rules, and click Edit Rule, I can again change what the scale is between a two-color scale or other things, and I can choose what it's using as its minimum and maximum, and I could set those to be specific values, and I could choose specific colors here for the highest to lowest values. So if instead of green I wanted to use a darker blue, I could let Excel apply that automatically. Moving on to another conditional formatting option, what we'll do is we'll take our price column, we'll copy it using Control-C, come over here and we'll paste it using Control-V. As a reminder, if we want to remove conditional formatting rules, we come down here to Clear Rules and we choose Clear Rules from Selected Cells. So now we're back to the base price data. And let's choose some random number between maybe -10 and +100. And if we drag that down, let's say that that's the change in price. And here we'll say what's the price that it was multiplied by this divided by 100. So it's kind of like multiplying it by 71% in this case. And here we see that change right here. In this case it switched to 100, so it's not going to show a difference. But now you can see the difference in price. I'm going to press Control-C, and here I'm going to paste as a value just so that it doesn't keep updating on us because we have this random change here. And now if we type in new price here, we'll say that our new price equals our old price plus whatever our new price is. We'll copy that all the way down. And here we'll call this price change. We'll type equals new price divided by the old price minus 1, which gives us the percent change. So here we'll make this a percent. And in this case, our price went down 7%, but here it went up 52%. And these numbers, of course, will be random based on this random number generated here. But what we can do is we can use some of these conditional formatting methods to add some icons to the data. There are plenty of different options that we can choose from. We have directional arrows here, both gray and colorful. We have different shapes we can choose from, stoplights, some indicators that we have here. We even have ratings like star ratings or cell phone signals, pie chart looking things here. I'm going to choose these directional arrows. And what I want it to do is show me what prices went up or down at a glance. So if I go to conditional formatting, choose manage rules, and I choose to edit this rule, I can go here and you'll see it's automatically doing it by some percent. Instead of percent, I'd like to choose a number for both of these. And what I'd really like to see is when it's less than 0, I do want it to show red. That means it's gone down in price. When it's yellow, I'm going to say if it's greater than or equal to up to 10%. And then here, when the value is greater than or equal to, I'll choose again 10%. So what this says is when the value is greater than or equal to 10%, then make it green. Make it yellow when it's less than 10% and greater than or equal to, and this should say 0. And then when it's below 0, it's red. So if we click OK, we click Apply, we'll click OK. We can see here there are a few negative reds that stand out very quickly. There are some of these yellows which are very small increases, and then the rest are big green increases in price. If we go to that Manage Rules menu again, we actually want to represent a price increase for us is a bad thing. So in this case, we can change the icon, and we'll change it to a red triangle down. In this case, we'll change it to a green triangle up. But those don't make a lot of sense because that would mean that a negative number is a green arrow pointing up. So instead of arrows, let's switch it over to circles. And you can mix and match too. If you want a different type of red here, you could choose a lighter red. And we'll click OK and we'll click Apply. And now we see there's quite a bit of red. Our prices went up in many cases. As we move to the next part of our conditional formatting training, I want you to copy all of this data here over to a new set of cells, and we're going to press Ctrl V to paste. We want to remove all of the conditional formatting, but only from these selected cells, so that we're starting with a new data set just like we had. Up to this point, we've spent all of our time learning how to use conditional formatting to format a cell based on the value that it contains. At this point, we want to learn how to format a cell based on the value of a different cell. So for example, if I wanted to format this part number based on one of these columns to the right, how would I go about doing that? Here's how we can do that. If we select the entire range of cells here, we'll go to Conditional Formatting, we'll choose New Rule, and we'll use a formula to determine which cells to format. Let's choose our format, a format of this yellow color here. The part numbers that get that yellow fill are the ones that have a classification of A. So what we'll do is use a formula. We start every formula in Excel with the equal sign. And we don't need to use the if formula because we're just going to use a conditional statement. Excel knows, because this is a conditional formatting, that you're going to do an if type result, a true or a false. So it wants to know where will this formula be true. If we select this cell here, and we say equals in double quotes A, you'll notice it's anchored that automatically. And the way that it interprets this formula is it checks for each of these rows, does W3 equal A? And if it does, then we would format all of them. But we don't want to look at row 3 for every single instance here. Instead, we want to look at the respective row that we are in. So to do that, we will unanchor this, and we can use the F4 key to remove all of those dollar signs. Now when we press OK, you'll see that it's highlighted only those that have an A in the class column. If we wanted this yellow fill color to apply not just to this column, but to every column in this data set, we could do that as well. We'll create a new rule now that we have this range selected. We'll choose to use a formula again, and this time we'll say where this cell, and remove those anchors, are equal to B. We'll choose Format, and this time we'll do a light green. Now if I were to click OK, you will not see each row that has a B highlighted green. In fact, just to demonstrate, if I click OK here, you'll see it's only highlighting that first column. So to get it to highlight the entire row, we'll go to Manage Rules, we'll choose edit rule here, and in this case we'll anchor the column that we're looking at. So as it moves over and checks for each one of these consecutive cells, it's remaining checking in column W, but the row changes based on which row that we're in. So here if we click OK and we click apply, you'll see that now it's highlighting that entire row based on the value in column W, and that's because we anchored column W in our conditional format formula. So that we can get just a little bit more practice with this conditional formatting across different cells, let's do one more example where we have a price limit. And we'll format this as an input here, and let's choose $50. So we would like to see everything that is over $50 be highlighted. If we select this entire range, we'll choose conditional formatting, we'll choose a new rule based on a formula. We'd like to see this cell here, price, is greater than the $50 we have in this cell. And we'll format that to have a border color that is red outline. We won't do anything with the fill because there are some other items that may have a fill color from our previous filter. We'll click OK, and when we click OK, watch what happens here. Every single thing gets formatted with a border of red. Why does that happen? If we go to the Manage Rules section, let's look very carefully at our formula. The way that this is anchored right now is it's checking everything against cell T3. So because we have both the column and the row anchored, as it goes down one row at a time and validates, it's always coming back to check cell T3. So if T3 is above $50, everything will be marked red. And if T3 is not, nothing will be marked red. So if we close this box and we change this price to $45, nothing is now marked red. If instead we go to our Manage Rules here, we'll choose to edit this rule, and we remove the anchor on the row, we always want to look at cell AB4. We don't want that to shift at all, but we want to move down one row each time we go through this iteration, always looking though in column T. If we click OK here, we click Apply, you'll see now that only the things that have a price above our limit are highlighted in red. If we raise our limit, fewer of those rows are highlighted, and if we raise our limit again, even fewer are highlighted. With the projects in this class, you'll get plenty of opportunities to practice with conditional formatting. In addition to this video, I would encourage you to go use search engines online to continue to learn more about the nuances of conditional formatting. There are many things that you can do with this function, and this video is meant just to get you started so that you can continue to learn on your own.